Hello, everybody, and welcome back to She Is Podcast. So excited to be coming back for the third in this series of the new podcast. I will also be sharing in this new YouTube new YouTube link all of the ones that I have previously recorded through my More Than Existing. I still love that title. I may still do some that link into that as well. So I'm just trying to figure out the groove. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going. Um, so this is the third in what I'm calling kind of like my Mary. It's that transformation. It's that journey of when I've shown myself the mercy, when I've come to recognize those parts of myself that um I've kind of have to call myself out on my own bullshit every now and then, and we all have to do that. That's a big part of who we are and the journey that we take when we make a choice to fully start to awaken. And when we talk about awakening, it's not that we're awakening to the world, that, oh my God, we've been living in such a horrible place. Is we are awakening to the truth of the stories that we create, that we live in. And all of the roles and all of the persona and the mask that we wear, trying to create and hold up that conditioned life that we had either been taught to live in or that we have been um, creating over time, like a snowball effect. Everything that we figure, we could have the parents that were like, oh, well, I don't want to be nothing like my parents, so I'm going to be anything but that. So I can be out trying to perfect life and trying to put off that whole attitude that I got my shit together. I know exactly what I'm doing, trying to be that everything, trying to be that, that I call it the Pinterest mom, trying to be that perfect mom. You're researching and you're planning your kid's birthday for like 6 months before it happens to make sure that everything is in alignment and is perfect. And then the day comes and it's not everything that you thought it was because you put such high expectations on things to be that way. So today in this podcast, as we speak about the mirror, I'm going to speak a little bit about my journey through. I spoke in the last podcast about my experience with the Marys, and so I have a whole journey through the biblical. And I don't. I always say I don't know why me, and I have no idea why me, but I am a mystic. I am a channel. I do a lot of other work besides this woman empowerment. Besides she is, there's a lot of me that is, that I'm done hiding. So there's a mystical world. My other Facebook page is my mystical, it is my magical world. This is my life coach. This is my where I truly help people more than exist. And that's a big part of my journey as well. And I own Corrie School of Magic, and I have the More Than Existing program, which goes from level one all the way to becoming a light worker coach certification program through my work. It's about being able to you come to that point of self actualization, self awareness, learn soul language, learning to communicate to yourself from the soul. And so, a lot of my work in the diamond effect and my goddess work is about learning soul work. So, these She Is podcasts came to life based around my goddess within my soul revival courses that I was offering and teaching, well, that I'm still offering and teaching in Corey School of Magic. All the links are below to my website, to where to purchase my book, and also to be able to sign up to purchase my cards eventually here, which are the Everyday Goddess. I'm a bit of a paradox to the title that I carry or to the labels that we have to put on ourselves. I call myself undefinable, unmarketable. I'm having a real tough time in social media world, and I'm not going to lie on finding where I belong and making myself fit. Most people that I still work with come by word of mouth, come by referral. Um, and I've managed to build a professional career out of it. So I'm not going to complain. I now recognize the blessing and the blessed life that I get to live and the opportunity to fully be present as me. I am my own creation. I am turning 50 in a few eh, next week. Uh, and so I don't I just can't do it no more. I just cannot fit into that box. I keep trying. It's not where I belong. So today I want to talk a little bit about um, some of these roles, some of this persona that we get. As I speak about Mother Mary, I'm going to take this back. I'm going to reel it back a little bit here. And I want to talk about my journey through Mother Mary. In the last episode, I spoke about my dream and being present with the Marys and being told not to look back, to have faith, to hold on to that faith and to keep going forward and looking into that light of what we call the Christ like. I call it my diamond effect light. That's a whole another trademark program that I've created. Creation is my specialty. I love to create. It's like, oh, it just makes me so happy to be able to create. And so programs kind of fly through every time I sit down with that passion, that desire. But on the journey to that diamond effect, to that light, also comes into I've had to travel to the depth of the darkness. So I have been on a big journey over the past 2, 3 years, which I've come to realize is the path of enlightenment that I've been taking. I'm on a path, what we call the pathways. And so finding my way home to me and to that journey and fully accepting to have clarity as as a healer, as a channel, means that you have to learn the power of the middle road, the crossroads, and to be open because a channel don't really get to a mystic. You can have your personal views, but we don't get to infuse ego into our work and our wants. And so part of that journey was as I continued that path, that journey was I had to go to the depth of darkness, the dark night of the soul journey, and I had to really go deep. And I don't know if, like, when did I ask for this? I don't know. I don't think I ever really asked for this. I just have a very curious mind. And my curious mind really wanted to go to places where I wanted to discover the whys behind how we get there. How did I get there? How did I get to that point of that depression? How did I get there to that point of where I literally had bottles of codeine sitting on my bathtub, sitting in a ball with no water left in the bathtub. And I'm sitting there holding, balled up in this little ball, freezing, crying, hysterical. And nothing in particular had taken me there other than I collapsed. I just lost that sense of trying to be everything for everybody, and we only have so much strength that we in our human capacity, and we often have to admit to ourselves that our weakness is our strength. And that's where I got to that point. I hit there of when I fell to my knees. And I've had many low moments in my life, and they were like, that just go get your I mean, I'm a hairdresser. I was a hairdresser and an esthetician for 30 years. So I would just say, okay, girls, let's just cut my hair. Let's just color it different. Let's just do something on the external. I'll lose 20 pounds. That'll fix it. I'll get up, I'll get going. Yeah. And I'll do the work spiritually and emotionally to a certain point, just where there was enough to just get up, just get going again. That's all you need is just that kickstart to get going. So it always have enough to go that three-quarters of the way, right? You're just going to accomplish, you're going to do until you get distracted again or you get sideswiped again. And so I was always picking myself up to that point of having just enough, just enough. I just need enough, just enough. And I also listen to other people, and I'm a channel mystic. I'm pretty sure that the first thought is the thought I should always be listening to. And oh, this would be the best thing for you. You need to do this, you need to do that, and we need to get on this now. The panic, the fear stories would start to get in. And this time, what was different? And this, I can tell you, happened over the past 2 years of my life. 3 years for sure that it's where it started, but 2 years where first I took the hero's journey and I chose to save me, and then the next journey was the depth of the darkness. And I traveled through the narcissistic behaviors. And in my book, More Than Existing, I write about the narcissist in me, that we all have that narcissistic tendency because everything that we keep wanting for ourselves, and we're like, oh, I just want them to be the right person. If they become that person, we'll be so happy. If they just do that, we'll be the right people. Or, I'm the one person who's there for everybody. I'm that person who shows up, that martyr complex, and just, becoming that whole, self prophecy to return to the victim story, to find our way back into that, to our self prophecy of, of judgment at, oh, everybody's always out to get me. I always end up in the same place. Those stories. And so I found myself traveling to the whys of those stories. Why is that story alive in me? Why do I keep going there? Why is that happening in my life? Why? Why am I why am I acting that way? Why am I responding that way? I'm like, hey, I'm like almost 50 years old. I'm 40 at the time. I would have been like 47, 48, like 48. Why am I? What the hell, Corey? And so um why would I, I would call myself out on my own bullshit. And in that experience is that it took me deep into why we become that. And that's where the conditioning. So the biggest illness that we have in the world right now, in my personal opinion, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not even a scientist, but I'm pretty freaking brilliant. I've come to find out. That's what I tell myself. You know, could be wrong, but that's my and so what I've really truly come to find out was the biggest illness is conditioning and that we have been conditioned. We're conditioned to fear. We're just conditioned. The whole world has been based on we're conditioned at home, in school, media, everywhere. And if we could just uncondition ourselves, if we could just release, untie ourselves from those stories, from those situations, allow ourselves to think, really, and using our free will and trusting that choice. And yes, you're going to hear dogs barking in my podcast. I'm so sorry, but not sorry. That's part of my home. That's my house. I no longer try to perfect life. It's real. Um, but when we can, untie, when we can really start to think, maybe I should question some of this. Maybe I should become a little bit more curious. Maybe I should just, just go beyond even the so-called fact checks and say, maybe I should look a little bit deeper. And that's how we get to that point in the spiral dynamics when we rise up. And spiral dynamics is not my creation. That is something that we learn and teach within our work that we do. Um, I'm having a blank on the gentleman's name who created it, but spiral dynamics is a value system, like I believe creating a value system in a society where we go from individuality to belonging to back to wanting to be an individual, shows the identity, the personality types that we create, that we become, until we can move beyond that mob mentality mind to release ourselves from the clutter, from the fear, and the motive and manipulation to get people to become part of that collective, that tribal energy that we do. And to be able to know that you can be a part of something and still have your own mind and think for yourself, and to know that change comes when we make a choice to stop, stop, pause, to have the courage to say, you know what, this is not working. Let's drop the swords. Let's get rid of those sharp tongues. Let's not, let's not keep doing those destructive things. Let's do something that'll be productive. Let's do something that's going to actually bring about a change. And so that's where I went in the dark night of soul and realizing how destructive we are to our own selves, how how conditioned we are, and how I even was continuing to condition myself to believe that, well, if I'm that spiritual healer, if I'm to be this person for everyone else, and I'm going to have to live this life. And I've come to realize I'm not no saint, I'm not no angel, I'm human, and that we're a spiritual being having that human experience is such an important thing to remember. The spirit is perfectly perfect. You'll never be perfectly perfect, and to accept that. And so traveling through that dark night of the soul and that journey that I took, took me into depression. And then I start to recognize, how many times have you heard during your life that, oh, well, we just have that in the family. Every woman goes, oh, just wait till you hit menopause. Just wait till you hit that stage. Just wait till you get there. Well, that was kind of where I traveled with the Mary journey. Back to the Mary journey is that, is that when they open the cave and you go into that dark night of the soul, and they're traveling into where that body of Jesus would have been. And so this is how this all started to come for me, was through my creativity, my creative mind, and how they started to show me a different look, a different perspective of these stories, instead of being so judgmental and basing it on the fear stories that I had been taught. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not for or against either one of them. I'm like, whatever floats your boat, whatever you believe in is fine with me. I don't really have a preference to what anyone else believes, because I live for me. And so I'm thinking, when you travel there, and so during my dreams, again, during my awake dreams that I have, I found myself being that wrapped in those cloaks of being dead, like being dead. And I'm like, we often are living like walking dead. Like literally we're walking dead. We're dead inside. We're numb. We're just existing and we're just here. And when you start to unravel and you start to uncloak and you start to unfold, you start to be able to see a peak, a shimmer of a light. And that light you realize is you. And then you're like, holy, where did that come from? And where has that been? I've seen that light before. And you start to remember these moments in your life when you felt alive, when you felt like there was something so much more, so much more of you. And then you think, where did I go? And so it usually comes in the essence of you're either being inspired by somebody, you're reading something, you're listening to something. And that's my hope, that my desire is that through listening through my work, to being present with me, to being here. And I know the first few podcasts are a little bit like iffy because I'm like, who the hell am I? And what am I doing? And I'm just like blah blah blah. And I had to clear my thoughts before I record the third one, but I just put them out the way they are because that's truth, that's reality. But I'm cloaking. So as I could see myself as the presence of, you know, the Jesus who was crucified, who had been crucified by society, by life. And I'm like, and that's who I had become because I was stepping away, because I wasn't going to be the person that people always wanted me to be. That sense of crucifying and judgment that came by stepping up to be this psychic medium, this healer, the parts of me that people, including my own family, couldn't understand. Like, what is she doing? Why is she doing that? And then the rumors of the story, the book, is like, oh, well, she's a tell-all book and she's telling all this. And I'm like, if anybody knew how many secrets I hold in my heart of people that I've never ever gotten out and what they have done to me. Every time you lay your shit on somebody, every time you lay your story on somebody, you leave that with them. And I hold that in my heart because I cannot tell what you know. Like I can't, that's those things I had to carry and I've carried for all of those years. Well, what I realized I had to let those go. So in holding the light for everyone else, for being the light for everyone else, I died. I died. I sacrificed myself. I thought I had to become the saint, and I'm sure it goes back many a lifetimes to be of service, to be that slave to the industry that we have created in the spiritual world. It's that, oh, we have to become this holier than thou. And I'm like, yeah, no, no, no. And so what I recognized was when all of this pandemic started to happen, you started to see the cracks in the foundation, you started to see people crumble, and you started to see the realness. And that was like, oh, that is real. Okay. So if, you know, how much of myself is the unhealed healer? So as I start to unwrap, I got the presence of that, of those beautiful Marys who walked before us. And so every woman who walked before us, who made a choice to choose to take a stand for anything that the world was against or what other people were against, including their own families, when they're like, what happened to her? Where'd she go? Why do you mean she abandoned her family? She went back to school. She divorced. What? She left her family behind. All of those things. And guilty is charged to sometimes that judgment, not knowing, not understanding, and then leaving women without uh, that support, that knowing that, you know what? I don't know why. I don't know why that's happening for you. All I know, there must be something really terrible inside of you, something that's really hurting you inside that you're feeling like you're that unhappy that you have to make some of the choices and decisions. And I'm sorry that you felt like you had to go through that alone. And it's taken a long time to get to there. I had to unravel and unwrap and expose my wounds and to show my wounds to get there. And so when we look at the modern day master and mastering this life and the modern day healer and the modern day psychic medium, is that we're not here to be saints or to be any of those things. And we're not also the divine of prior years because those were all stories that were created. We don't know how they really lived behind closed doors, but see, I could go all through all of this. So many stories that I can tell around this, but I'm going to go back, get back, back. So in the darkness, in that place of unraveling, there was enough light to be able to see what needed to be done, and what rose from that darkness, and what rose from that death of letting those parts of recognizing how many parts of me had died, was that I couldn't pick them up again. The past is dead, right? I couldn't pick those up. But what could I get? What did I still have? And there's this light inside of us that we keep running from, or we keep searching for, or we keep trying to find it in somebody else, or fix it in somebody else, or bring it forth in somebody else. And we're like, yeah, that's us trying to live through the energy of somebody else. But when you start to see it within you, you start to think, I ran from that. I hid that of me. I fought with that. I tried to push that on somebody else. And so this is where, when I start to recognize this, that light of that Christ light, that diamond light is that gem, that we are that precious gem. We are that light. And when you have to rise again. So it's like when we're letting things end, there's an ending, but we're so afraid of endings. We're so afraid to let all of that fall away. We're so afraid to expose ourselves. We're so afraid to come out into that, to open that door, to come out of that spiritual closet, to walk out. And it's like, so every time, and it kind of fun, it kind of fun. I find it funny that when people spiritually awaken, they think they have to start doing this as a job. And it's like, oh, well, I need to go tell the world this. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not why we originally spiritually awaken. And that's how you will get lost very quickly, because it's about us first. And there's no rush. And so if you're called upon, if you can wait, if you can have the patience and the understanding of what it means to walk and embody light, is that when you are called upon, your time will be present. That panic, that fear that you need to now become something, is that human ego connection again. And that's still connected to the darkness. That's still connected to all the things that you were supposed to let die, that you're afraid to let die. Because who would I be without the story? Who would I be without that identity? Who would I be without all of those extra little clutter things? Who would I be if I'm not that rock star out there amongst my friends, my family? And by letting all that go, when you start to be able to stand in the light, I don't know what's next. And that's where I am. I don't know I know what I am. I don't know who I am. I'm undefinable because I haven't defined it. And I'd be damned if I'm going to let somebody else define it for me. My reputation is often built by other people because people don't know me. I live a very private life, but people assume they know you. And so um, I'm choosing to define myself based on how I represent my energy to me, how I see myself appear as a woman who's no longer a victim. And so during that dark night of the soul and in depression, I recognized a whole pile of suppression, of me suppressing the parts of me that wants to be the nice person. And, that's one of the claim to fames. It's like, oh, you're just too nice. You're so nice. And so that, oh, I'm just a nice person. No, I'm not very nice person if I'm not very nice to me. And that's where you start to really call yourself out. And so we become the martyr to the cause. We become the the victim to that life, to that world. We become all of that. So without all of these, once all of these, once all these wrappings came off all the wounds, and I start to explore even deeper, I start to look at the people that you even judge on social media and those places and say, hmm, it's easy for us to point out what's wrong with all those people, but how come I can judge them, and how come I can criticize them? How come I can hate them so easily? Um, there must be something that's similar here. So we become our own worst enemy because we try to run from those parts of us. So the moment that we become that critic, the moment that we become that judge and jury, the moment we become all of those things, we are no different than the same person that we are considering to be the awful person of the world. And so in that nice person self, I realized that, you judge other people based on the stories that you tell. Well, I'm the first one always there. I'm always there for everybody. I'm always that person who shows up. I'm present. So what you're saying is that, okay, if you're always the first one, what you're telling the rest of your friends is that they're always the last. They're never the ones who are there. They're never going to be the ones who are going to be present for you. Or, when you get it thrown when it's thrown at you, well, I do everything for you and you never appreciate it and da 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 da. Mm, what are you not appreciating? Flip the words backwards. I always say everything that you wear on your shirt, it's that whole let that shit go, namaste, that whole I got this spiritual, what you face out to the world on those t-shirts that you stamp onto you and you wear it as a t-shirt and you parade it to the world. I got this, and you're trying to tell other people. Well, you got to turn that t-shirt inside out. You have to flip that inside out and you have to turn it inward and you have to let yourself be spoken to that way. You got this. Well, what do I got? And so as I found myself starting to have to come up and out and into that light, I felt chilly, I felt exposed. And then I looked around and I looked at these powerful women who walked before us. And I used that as not to influence my outcome of how I would show up, because I'm still working on that, but as inspiration. If they could do it in that time, if they could be that and walk that light and to just walk away from the crowd and just know, if they could do it in that time, what is possible for us to do in this time? What can I do, or who can I be? What is available to me in the energy that is out there that gives me what I call true strength? To know that I will, I understand humility, weakness, and that on my strongest day on earth, I am still only quarter the caliber of the energy that is outside of us, the power that comes in us asking in prayer, in meditation, of trusting the guardian energy that's with us, to know that we're not here to be that that being that so figures we're so strong, that I am still weak. I am still vulnerable. I am still a human, and I'm not going to be the story of the pillar of strength and courage for anyone every day or always, because sometimes I don't have it to be courageous. Someday I can't find that voice because the suppression of the human is saying, what will this, what impact will this have on the people in my life if I speak this truth? And finding a teeter-tottering middle road with this has become quite the journey, as a mystic, as a channel, as a person who has all of this wisdom and all this stuff that the world is not ready to hear yet, or to know in a relationship, because I'm a mystic, that I can get into my, in my relationship, and I could say, if you would just do this, we would have to, I could see our relationship down the road, da da da. But I can't bring that in all the way into the relationship, because I have to let the human be in that relationship. And so finding those parts now, as I find myself now out, I'm like, I'm out of the depth of darkness. I'm out of that dark night of the soul journey that we take. And so the dark night of soul journey is traveling to the depths of your shadow self, to do the shadow work, to recognize the parts of you that you keep representing as your truth, as who you really are, but you recognize that it's the identity of the role that you play, or the persona, the mask that you wear to show up, to have courage, to have strength, to, and it's like, and it talks about, the characters that you play in the stories of life. And these are all things that have been around forever. And there's a lot of us speaking this language, we're talking this language, but I'm not them and they're not me. And so this is not original work when you speak about the personas, the hero's journey, the dark night of the soul. This is work that has been around for a long time. And Alan Watt, Freud, um, Oh God, I just having such a mental little moment here right now, trying to think of the names of who I guess I'm not meant to say it right now. I will put I can put it in the comment section for you if you really want more information, but I teach a lot of it. I use it in my work because it inspired me to really look at who shows up. So who shows up? Who shows up when you're stressed? Who shows up when you're frustrated? Who shows up? So who shows up in you? And so that's what who are you being today, Corey? And who are you being this for? And where's your truth? Where's your truth? Who are you really? And finding that person really truly brought me to recognizing the areas in my life where I was still saying sorry and apologizing to people for what wasn't my bad behavior. So not only did I have a collective of other people's stories that I've been bonded to in secrecy, but I also had a, a whole list of energies of people in my life where because I don't like to hurt anybody, I don't want to cause hurt to anybody, I would even no matter how bad they've been to me, no matter how much they've personally hurt me, and I'm not saying I didn't hurt them, but it's like that how hurt I was, I would just keep saying, "I'm so sorry. I don't, I don't want to offend you, and I didn't mean to do that to you." And I would apologize, but not once did that come back. And that was such a, or it would be, you just did this to me or you made me feel that way and da da da. I'm like, so everything that was thrown on me, I would let it collapse me. And that's how I ended up collapsing all the way down and losing myself into this sense of it's almost like I didn't have any dignity left for myself. It's like I was like they kicked the bucket too many times. I became the dumping ground. I was the emotional dumping ground. And I'm not going to take the claim to fame to be the martyr because that's not a role I play very well, but I had a lot of energy around me of martyr energy of people that would keep saying, I was the first one there for you. I was there for you. And so I, being the healer, was thinking, God, maybe they did. Like, maybe it's all of, maybe I am such a problem. I'm so selfish. So I started to call myself selfish, unworthy, drama queen, snobby, all of those things that I'm like, well, these are all things that other people have said about me. So how much of it is truth? So on the flip side of that, I started to really dig in deep to why do people feel the need to have to try to do this for me? How much of me is the sad story? Because I had a deep seated sadness that I could not find the root of the cause. I have a lot of, a lot of things in life. I had a lot of stories and that would let me be that sad. But this sadness, no matter how much I tried to heal, I could not fix. So when I fully unwrapped and when I stood up and I started to walk up the stairs, when I started to walk out the cave of the darkness, I started to recognize this sadness. And then a name grief came to me, and I wasn't associating with all of the things that I have never grieved, the things that I never ever grieved over, like, the having to leave my career, my health, losing my health to a condition that was unexpected. I never grieved. I just kept pushing forward like I did. See, that goes back to the original story. Just keep going. I'm strong. And that's the first thing. And when that was repeated to me a few weeks ago, when I was very sad and just very hurt by a whole bunch of circumstances, it was like, yeah, but you're always the strong one. That's why we throw it on you. That's why we do that to you, because you're the strong one. I really started to see that as I came into my light. So opening, walking up and being that vulnerable self. It's like when you walk into the light and you embody light, it's not that you're embodying light to be that for everyone else, is you're embodying light to discover the parts of you that if you could honor and be inspired by the likes of by the likes of like Jesus, of Mother Mary, of Nelson Mandela, whoever it is for you, that is the inspiration, your grandmother, and you would treat them with such honor and such respect. Why do we not respect ourselves that much? Why is it that I was disrespecting me? And by doing that, I was allowing other people to disrespect me. So I was discounting my worth, my value. And so the martyrs that would show up in my life, the victims that would show up into my life, the saviors, those people that were coming with an intention to make themselves look good because I look like someone who needs saving because I always carried that sad story, were truly feeding off me like bottom feeders sometimes, right? It's like that they feed off of that because they also need it. And I'm not judging these people or I'm not judging these people in the way of saying, you know what, I'm better than them. We're all in the same boat. So each one of us were the exact same reflection to each other in one way or the other. So my deep-seated sadness was something that I had to then do my soul revival work around. I had to do my soul retrieval. I had to reach in and I had to find the parts of me. It's like putting those little chargers back on your heart. And I had to heal my, what I call now my saddened, my dark, my blackened heart is what I call it. So I did a lot of writing. I did a lot of work. I've created a whole program called the Diamond Effects. It's around having our blackened heart, our darkened heart, the sad that's in our heart, the anger, the frustration, those things that shadow over our heart. And in doing that, I found myself going back to little stories like an ice cream, like what the ice creams that tasted so yummy. Like I could start to taste things that would give me joy. Um, they were called a buried treasure was the ice cream. How funny that I was looking for these treasures, which were the gem inside of us, that I found, remembered this buried treasure ice cream. And it was this orangey, whitey, and the taste. And I was a little girl, and I couldn't wait to eat the ice cream, but to also see what was on the inside of it. And I'm like, that's me. I can't wait to kind of feel me again, to know more about me, to see what's on the inside of me. Who am I? What am I? What am I going to be now? Who am I going to be now that I'm spiritually, emotionally grown up? That I'm not having a tantrum, that I'm not freaking out, that I'm not acting like I'm 2 years old, that I've done the inner child work, that I've recognized the and had such compassion and love for those people that I would have had frustration, anger with that, or I would have been capable apologizing to. I'm like, yeah, no, we're all on our own journey. I don't think most of those people didn't intentionally set out to do that to me. They just don't know. They're not aware of that behavior because we think to be the person who's always there for everybody is a healthy thing. It's not. It's like, so there's this martyr complex that people have, and it's that unmet desire that we have to, that outcome to be, want to be recognized, to want to be known. They just wanted me to love them. They wanted me to see them. What I recognize through the eyes of the Marys, I'm the mother to everybody. And I am what they call, and my dear friend Leanne Wolf has mentioned it, this was in my very first human design. And I have a couple good friends now that do a lot of human design work. And Leanne Wolf is one of them. And the other one is Lisa Richard. Um, and both of them have been crucial in some of this work with me. But Leanne Wolf, I started with, and I've done my 7 years of. I'm in my seventh year of what we call our human design. And my first meeting, she said, number one, stop talking to people who don't want to hear you. So you're just wasting your breath, and that's what's causing you a lot of your frustration. The other thing, you are the mother goddess of us all. You are the clearest channel I have ever met in my life. Took me some time to adjust to this or to recognize this. And because I don't really, I have the servant kind of ego rather than the fly high, like less of the queen, more of the servant kind of. I feel bad. I would feel bad getting a pedicure. And I did that for years. I am an esthetician, but if someone else worked on my feet, I would be apologizing to them for working on my feet. That's, yeah. And that also is not healthy. That doesn't do service to anyone else because when people are trying to help you, then you seem very unappreciative. So a person who is sad often appears to be ungrateful. And that was what really came up, is that everyone's trying to help me. Everybody's trying to, and my friend Allison, who is my life coach, Allison Lund, she brought that up. She kind of called me out on that a little bit. And and so and so when and so when I realized that people are trying to help you, people are trying to be there for you, and you're not accepting that. But the martyrs, there was a double edge there because they want to be recognized, they want to be in your life, they want to help you, they want to be something, but they always say, it's like, oh, I don't really want to be anything. I don't need that attention. But that's a lie. And we don't know it's a lie because we don't know what we're seeking and searching. So they do want to be seen, or else you wouldn't be the martyr because you you want to be, you have a desire to be recognized, to be appreciated, to be understood, which takes us all the way back. And so I was the reflection of the sad, the ungrateful, the, those things. And then on the other side of that, the flip side of that was the victims and those people that were coming into my life with their story, their personas, their stories. They were also getting hurt. And so I wouldn't lash out. I shut down or I kind of start to back away. And those people then come at me with, well, you've done this to me, you this, or, some turned all out nasty, and you just got to know when to put your borders up. You've got to know when to put your boundaries up. Sorry, borders. Put your boundaries up and just be able to say, you know what, I can't fix this. I maybe 10 years down the road, there'll be something better, but they've already got their mind made up and they don't want to make a change. So sometimes you just have to do that. But other times is that when you can recognize it in you and you can see it in you, you're not so quick to be um, so much to abolish everybody in your life. That back when, you want it to, when I really want it to more than exist, and I want it to become, take ownership and responsibility. I also then was all about, got to have those boundaries and I got to know where to put them. But now I'm a little more porous, a little more understanding, a little more compassionate. That martyr, that person, that victim, that person who feels personally victimized by everyone or everything that's coming up, and that everything and everyone is their enemy. They obviously, they know what it's like to be that. And the same with the martyr, they know what it's like to be forgotten, to not be seen, just like me with sad. We know what it's like to live a sad life. So if we know this and we're aware of it and we awaken to that truth, and you turn that shirt inside out and you wear that inside out and you can feel for yourself, you start to be like that. You start to be like that buried treasure ice cream, and you truly want to start to taste the best parts of you and to find the best parts of you and discover it, because you spent a lifetime trying to bring that out in other people. You spent a lifetime trying to be that mothering, to nurture, to support everyone else, to bring that forth, to see the best of them. Well, that's what we're doing for ourselves now. And that's what the mothers, the divine mothers, were showing me, is that they were showing the best of them. And until that faded experience, that faded moment that they knew was to come, they had found the best of them. They had found who they were. They had shown their self mercy. They were walking in grace, or else they would not have been able to have the faith to know that there would be that rise again. That that as Jesus rose again, he would not be the same person who died, but he would walk towards his calling. He would walk towards his light. And that's what I came to understand from all of this, to find those treasures, to not be so judgmental, to now know that I am walking towards myself. I had to let those pieces of me die. Even the claim to fame moments, I call it, those beautiful moments that I loved about myself, the things that I thought were great, you have to let them all go. Because you don't realize how much of those are conditioning. To be able to reprogram ourselves to live a benevolent life, to live a life that is less judgmental, to be one that you're not so critical, criticizing yourself, to be able to understand soul language and angel language and love language. It's that to reprogram on that, even the parts of you you love you the best, can be very judgmental of a world that's not keeping up to the expectations of keeping that part of you content and happy. And so letting them all go and recognizing um, how many people that, how many times we've become on attack or we've been attacked, and that we don't realize the harm that is caused by creating enemies. But most of all, it happens because we have created the biggest enemy within us. And we have turned everything around us into an enemy based on how we have, sacrificed ourselves and constantly been crucifying ourselves and others based on those conditioned stories that we have heard and our desired need to have the outcome that we have been seeking and searching our whole lives. If you have no story, if you have no desire for that outcome, if you just trust and have hope, faith and you start to create from the now, do the healing from the now. You can't push beyond this. You've got to do the work. You can do all the other stuff and you can see this magical world over here and it's like but reality is going to hit again and you're going to lose that. But by following and listening to that journey of the Marys and knowing that somebody else also created a story because their writings are not here. And even today, as we write stories about who we think Mother Mary is or who we think Mother Mary Magdalene is, all of those is that we are just another voice creating another story. And we have these expectations, but who we are speaking about when we speak about them is we're speaking about ourselves, everything that we want to be, what we're aspiring to be, strong, confident. And yes, they speak to me. Yes, they show me. And they also showed me about being able to be born again and what born again means in my world. And that truly is to be able to wake up to to know that every day is going to happen to wash away to next day is going to be a new opportunity to try again. I'm not going to be able to perfect it all and that I can get up and start again. That doesn't mean I got to go back into the cave. It doesn't mean that I got to go back to the foundation. You may need to go back to visit, to patch something up, to find an old file, but to be able to live from where I am now is knowing that I have done the work. I've traveled the journey. I've taken, I've walked the path of enlightenment. I have taken the journey of from the cross, from not becoming a part of the mob, of how hard it is to not to pick a side, but to stay in the middle. The power of learning to listen to my yeses and to make my yeses really count and make my no's more popular than my yeses truly was, and to not be so quick to be so angry at somebody who who was trying to be that person, or when they come at me to recognize those things now as, they just sometimes don't understand, but to also know the power of being able to place that boundary, to take a stand, to know my truth. And that is when you walk away, is that the brave ones are all willing to go to war, all willing to fight for a cause. The courageous one is the one who has the courage to walk ahead, to walk in, knowing that you have to walk into that same line of fire, but you're not going to walk in with your weapon up. You're not going to walk in with that armor on. You're not going to walk in with the same energy that the people waiting for you have. Is that you're walking in body and love and light with a hope and a faith that when they see your calm, when they see your peace, when they see your light, they're going to say, oh, well, they're not so bad. Maybe I can stop and listen. Don't have to agree, but maybe I can listen. Maybe there's an opportunity to learn from this. Maybe there's an opportunity to grow from this. Maybe there's an opportunity to change perspective, minds, to be able to have a more open mind and to be able to bring a forth change. We stop being an enemy, we stop being on the attack, and most of all, we stop trying to be a martyr. We're no longer a victim to the circumstances if we don't have a story. And we're no longer creating the personas and the roles if we don't have a role to play. The only role that I have to play is to wake up to be me. And I don't know who I'll be tomorrow. I don't know who I'm going to be from here. All I know is that I'll be okay with being undefined and unmarketable until I discover who I am. And it's through those beautiful eyes of those women who walked with me in those awake dreams that said, we all have the power to be inspired by something, be inspired by somebody who does the right thing for the right reasons, be inspired by the benevolence, be inspired by what courage really means, what strength really means. Take the time to discover it, to learn it beyond the dictionary, because dictionary is the definition that is created by the word that was also defined, that was created by man. It is the energy that is projected, how we react, how we respond, that makes a difference in the lives that we live. I hope some way that today that you can think of your little buried treasure of your moments of happiness and joy, and you can start reaching towards those little good things that made you just go, and that in some way this helps you if you're going through some sort of struggles of your own today. And today she is, and every day you are a you are your own creation. You are awakening to the possibility that you get to define you. You are here so that you can uncondition from that illness of the mind, the cluttering, the disorganized thoughts, and be able to get clear and focus into knowing exactly who we are. We are powerful women, we are human, and we are imperfect, and we are beautiful, and we are the everyday goddesses, and we are here to more than exist. Much love to you. Thank you for being with me. This is the third one. If you watched the first ones, I hope you made it to the third one because they're like a train wreck. This one has gotten much better because I'm much clearer. Much love. Have a beautiful day. And thank you so much for being